idea what happened. Come back. I don't know what just happened, you guys. I'm so sorry if you were just sitting in the middle of that and then now you're... Are you guys back? What is going on? Okay, you're back. Okay, we'll get him back in. I'm so sorry, you guys. I had to like post that as part 1 and then come back. I have no idea how that happened or what happened, but we'll get her back. There's... Okay. Yeah, I was like, what just occurred?
I don't
Like
know,
the
and it was such an interesting
X button is
conversation.
up in the
And then
top
poof,
right corner. My finger was down here in the
I
comments
don't
section.
think
I
I
don't know,
did anything.
but it's okay
Anyway,
because I saved it as part 1
okay,
and
good.
I invited you guys already, so we didn't lose it. We didn't lose it.
Perfect.
Okay, so we
So,
were talking about
yeah, go ahead.
we were talking about how some things are safety and that's different. Then we moved on to, I'm trying to simplify this, but sometimes, Amy, we've got, people that are watching across the spectrum, and
Yep.
sometimes we can get a little advanced for them. So then we started talking about what your choices are as a trainer. Like, you get to decide as the teacher what you're going to work with, what you're not going to work with. That's the most common place that you guys would hear that, is the choice of what tools trainers use. Some use e-collars, some don't, some use prongs, some don't. So that's a like, what's in your repertoire is your decision.
Yeah.
So I'm
Let's talk
asking
about the
these
learner.
questions.
Let's fine to talk about the
Yeah,
learner.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's where we stopped. Is now the learner is the one who is open to all these different things, but the teacher brings, what they decide. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
To me, the learner, since all organized approaches or all things that are effective can result in behavior change in teaching, and especially since we're talking here in this conversation about dogs, we're not talking about what an adult might themselves say they want as the lesson in front of them. When we are in charge of beings that can't externalize and have tell us exactly what the learning experience is like and tell us exactly what lesson they'd like to have, and we are deciding things for children and deciding things for dogs. One, we should know that all learners can learn from a whole host of things. So it's not just how they could learn that would be the final arbiter on me picking what I would do. I can't think of a scenario in which, maybe I should start it a different way. To me, the learner does not dictate the lesson. The learner does not dictate the method. I dictate the method. The learner dictates the technique that is more clear to them. This thing I chose to do, the way I chose to set up how a down is learned, say, that learner said, I'm confused. I don't get what you just said. This doesn't make any sense to me. They can dictate that to me. But I don't believe a learner dictates whether they learn via a punishment type based thing or a reinforcement type based thing, just to simplify it, because both of those things work and they feel different when you receive them. And if they're both going to work but feel different, and then I get to make the call. So that's where we find ourselves, each making our own calls about what we are willing to do. But I don't believe this is about, but that dog dictates that dog needs it. That person could only learn from that kind of lesson. I think as a teacher, I have 1,000 ways. I should have 1,000 ways of teaching this one thing. And then I use the subset that I am personally most comfortable with, knowing that all of them would be effective. Now, for a human analogy, I think it starts to fall apart, because not maybe apart, but gets less analogous, because an adult human being with a complex understanding of a very deep behavior, who happened to resonate more with one certain lesson over another, would be so different as to be not analogous to me to kind of apply it to the stuff we would do with like nonverbal children and dogs. I think because we are going down to such a different level of process or different level of person or dog, there's a limited amount I can pull from sort of the adult human experiences of how to take lessons. And so I appreciate what what you're saying about what happens with you and all of that, but I feel for myself a disjoint between what can apply from that to people we have full control over, who have limited understanding, and and sort of emotions I am responsible for caretaking. There's only so much I can let
Yeah,
happen.
I see what you're saying.
Do yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think about dogs a little bit differently. I don't look at dogs like, and I'm not saying that these are your words. I'm saying I don't look at dogs like they're toddlers or like they're not emotionally at some level. I think that they're far, far, far smarter than we often think that they are, and they know things that we don't, I think, a lot of times. So I can understand that too, that that would put a different lens over my
Or like even a
perspective for sure.
10-year-old human,
Yeah,
like even a very advanced 10-year-old
yeah,
human. I'm thinking about the kinds of lessons she needs
yeah.
developmentally, how, and that doesn't, I'm not trying to sort of say all this to say, therefore do X, Jerry, or anything like that, but more when I'm thinking about it, the framework I tend to hear is you train the dog in front of you, and that means, hey, maybe that dog needs that. And I don't always buy that, because I think people think a dog needs a thing because they want to use a thing. No one in this room, no one in particular, just it comes up for us that it's what I want to use. So I'm going to think that the dog needs it. And I personally like training with the metaphorical one hand tied behind my back. It makes, it makes for creativity. It makes for, I still have to be effective, even if I'm not going to do this other thing. I still have to be equally as effective. And it makes for finding all kinds of new ways to do stuff. So I don't let, I don't want to say, I know what that dog is thinking and feeling, so much so that I start, what's the word for it?
Yes, you're about to say it, and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm saying. And I don't want to be like, I know the models of developmental psychology and science so well that this is it. That this tells me it's a different, it's a different lens. I mean,
I want to
you're
say,
the kind of people I'm learning from. So it's not,
right,
I'm not, that's not a disparaging comment. It's just to show people that there are different ways of looking at this. And
right.
even though Amy says what she's saying and I'm saying what I'm saying, at the end of the day, a lot of our training is basically the same. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm learning from FDSA. So just by default, I will see some of these things and do some of these things and then put them into practice, see that they work, or maybe they don't for me for whatever reason. And then so
Right.
it's just to show people that you can ask difficult
Yeah.
questions of each other and have decorum and have a proper debate over a topic where it's like, well, I don't really see it that way. Okay, well, I see it this way. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And
These
then
are
we move on to
esoteric
the
things.
next thing.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
we're
because
not,
a lot of the stuff that we're talking about are definitely questions that get asked. I don't want to reinforce bad behavior with cookies. Well, I don't want to, what was the last thing we were just talking about? It's like a difference of opinion about, oh, it was, well, sometimes that dog may need that thing,
right.
and it's like, well, it's just because it's in that person's repertoire and they want to apply it, maybe.
Sometimes it will be.
Um,
And so,
yeah,
like,
sometimes will be, yeah,
caution around that.
yeah,
Like, we do a lot of projecting onto those things that can't speak to us. We do a lot of projecting.
yeah,
And I feel honor bound to scrutinize that, to
hmm
scrutinize myself in that. Do I want to cut this corner? Do I want to go faster? And then will I tell myself that it was necessary? Sure, because I'm a human being and that's a thing I can do. And so I put things in place that help me watch for that, that help me
yeah,
think about what does it feel like to receive this? And do I have a reasonable option? And when I sometimes feel like I don't have a reasonable option, one of my other questions to myself is it because I haven't honestly really looked hard? Like, is this an area where my skill sets are low?
hmm
Yeah, maybe so, right? But I'll tell myself maybe, oh no, I've looked and this is definitely how I have to go, right? Because it's just it's human
yeah,
to do
yeah, we
that.
do it.
You know,
Yeah, we want to take the path of
I
least
want
resistance,
to
so
take
we just
the
go
less
that
path,
way.
so we'll just go the way I've done
Hmm
it, and then I'll justify it. So knowing that I can do that too, and that everybody can do that, I just put some of these question places around myself and say necessary or convenient to me,
Yeah,
and then if I had an equally effective other way, would I not choose it? Is there some reason not to choose that one? Like, let me look at it. And I don't think anybody suffers from a more examined situation. You still might come to your same conclusion, but there's never a harm at examining and asking, like, if I were wrong here, how would I find out? I love that question. It's a scientific question. It says, don't assume you're right. Assume, like if I assume that you are not stressed right now. I'm just looking at you and I just assume you're in like a good mood and you're feeling pretty okay about being on camera and you like talking to us and this is a good time for you. That's my assumption about Jerri right now. She's having a great time. She likes this conversation. She wants to be here. And I can just go forward with that because I see evidence to no evidence. I'm sure you're smiling and you're enjoying, right? But I want to ask myself then, but if I were wrong, how would I know? If I were wrong, how would I know? I could ask her. Okay, she could tell me. If she were lying and I was still wrong, how would I know? Right? When I keep asking myself questions like that, it might be that I come to the conclusion that I was right all along. You are happy and you do like this.
Yeah.
No harm done. I asked. So I orient myself that way, as in, I think that's okay with you and I think it's okay with me to do this. And evidence is pointing me in that direction. If I were wrong, would it be obvious? Or would it look just like this also? If this thing that I'm looking at could be, if I'm looking at a happy looking dog, but they were hiding stress, I'd want to know it. So I'll start asking questions like, when does happiness look like stress? When does stress look like happiness? And I would ask those questions. I'm getting a little esoteric. I realize maybe people are going like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. But I like to say, I've made an assumption. I think I'm right. I'm going to look for anything that would tell me that I'm wrong before I go forward. In the big picture, not like in the moment of how to teach it down. I know how to teach down, but because I feel honor bound in a lot of ways to make sure that I, with the thumbs and the huge the frontal cortex and the power and the positionality in this world, I feel honor bound to make sure I don't just run roughshod with that power anywhere it shows up, anywhere I want to. If I can enact power over a less powerful being, I have to examine my choices a little more carefully than just what I feel is right at the moment, just going on my intuition. You're muted, Denise. You're muted, Denise. You're muted.
Oh, I think she's talking. I think she's talking to them.
I was asking somebody to shut a door for me.
Sorry. And it doesn't always lead us to the same place, but I don't think anybody examining what they do and looking at where are the places I could be wrong, where are the places I lie to myself. I think this leads all of us to compassionate training, regardless.
I agree. One of my favorite things is the saying of the wrongs. I like to be like, well, that was dumb, and I make fun of myself a lot, and my friends do too, and we laugh about it, and we make it, we play. See that, Amy? Around the topic of being wrong. We use humor to bring out, how idiotic we can be sometimes, or how single-minded or selfish, or the projecting. Oh my God, it has really helped to let it come out more quickly and more freely, and then the process starts.
Look at it
faster for me.
Let's not defend ourselves about it. Let's just fucking look right at it. It'll be faster, right? This came about this question you asked me came about from me saying I believe people are doing the best they can all the time with what they have, right? And I didn't or forgot to kind of close that door with something a little more, which is that doesn't mean then. So if I think everybody's doing the best they can with what they have, even when they're doing terribly, if they're doing the best they can, that allows me to have compassion for them. But that doesn't mean that every behavior is acceptable and excused, which is, I think, what gets assumed after that. Then it's like, oh, everyone's being so nice and so higher in their higher selves all the time. And can't we just sometimes, be honest about it? That all fits together with me. Assuming you're doing your best, even when you're at your absolute worst, lets me see you compassionately and choose an action that is, it is not reactionary on my part. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to stop behavior or will accept anything out of your mouth, right?
I just want to say I'm really proud of myself, because for 10 minutes, I wanted to say so many things, and I have stayed quiet. I'm just over here going,
I'm proud of you too.
Look at you, Denise, staying quiet and just letting things go.
I stayed quiet for like 25 minutes. This is the longest I've never talked. I was just listening.
My brain has been like having a stroke, actually.
Because of ADHD.
So fast.
all three of
But
us with our impulsive words.
I
Talk.
think my dog is.
We
I
do.
think I've
We're
had
all
growth. I think I've been growing. I think I was growing these last 20 minutes. Okay, so
Growth.
the ones though that are still hanging out with me, some of my thoughts. A huge part of why I am a positive reinforcement trainer is the unknown. And it's so easy when you're frustrated and you don't know how to solve something, to, whether you mean to or not, do a little bit of mental gymnastics that makes it the other, right? So I can't solve this, but maybe I could solve it with this punishment or whatever. And it's something I'm very conscious of because time has helped a lot. But historically, I had a pretty quick to punishment brain, right? Not towards dogs, really, just my upbringing. It's the way I was raised. You know, we're just all very judgmental
Same.
people.
Yeah.
And as a result of however many years of positive reinforcement training, I'm a different person, largely because of how I changed how I train dogs. And because I no longer put punishment on the table, and I'm going to get back to that in a sec, because I do punish my dogs, but my line in the sand. So I've got my line in the sand. I don't cross it. And what it's done is showed me over and over and over again that I was wrong. Like, I didn't think I could do this, that, or the other, but I can. It's just I had to have the line in the sand. Now, my line in the sand is not that I don't use aversives. I do use aversives. My line in the sand is no physical pain or mental suffering. Now, there's a difference between suffering and not getting your way. So sometimes my dogs don't get their way. And they might call that suffering, but I'm like, well, buddy, I matter too. So you're not going to get your way, but I don't use fear. And I try really hard not to like startle or truly scare my dog. But I have zero qualms about telling my dog, that's not going to happen. You're not going to do that. And I will absolutely, according to the temperament of the dog, add pressure. Now, what that looks like with Brito is nothing like what it looks like with Zen. Now, in terms of like mental capacity, I look at a dog like Zen, and I really think there's stuff going on in there that's hard to explain. I have a relationship with him like I have a relationship with my husband, not necessarily like a toddler or a small child.
Yeah.
And so when I'm really upset about something he did, I don't have any problem telling him that. I really am angry with you. And he knows it and he understands it for what it is. That is my belief. Do I hurt him? No, because it's already happened, whatever it is. But when I said, get in the car, and he looked at me and he took off after the deer, I have no issues yelling at him. Yeah, well, actually, it happened on my property, and I only have an acre, but there was a deer at my neighbor's property. Now, he didn't get very far because he ran into a fence line within 40 feet, but I was mad because he knew what I want. I saw him look at me, and I said, that is bullshit, right? So for 30 seconds, I yelled at him. Now, how did he take it? He just stood there and kind of looked at me. He certainly wasn't scared. And I was just, that's just absolute bullshit. When I say you get in the car, you get in the car. And I said, now get in the car. And he cheerfully hopped in the car. But you know what? The next time he saw that deer, he didn't do that. He looked at me. I said, good. I was careful about my tone because if I'd added any arousal, he would have gone again. It's like, good. A little bit more, I mean it. Come this way. And we got along fine. So I don't know where these things fit in there. Life happens outside of training scenarios. So that's one thing that's just kind of floating in my head. I think it's very helpful for people to have a line in the sand. I think everybody should spend some time thinking about it and deciding what that is and what it means to them. Because if you don't, I think it's very easy to tip into something that you might look back and say, I really didn't mean to go there. I was upset. So I think it's helpful to practice that. I do think dogs like Brito, he's kind of living his own life and I'm just trying to keep him out of trouble. I don't think we have the same kind of relationship. I don't think he responds in the same way to me being upset. I don't think he's my partner. He's my buddy. I think Zen is my partner, and I think we relate differently, and we have I'm going to say it's an honest relationship. When I'm happy with him, I am telling him I am happy. I am so proud of you. And there's a verbal thing there's a whole bunch of stuff. The same way I do with people. And when I'm angry, not just not getting my way. That's not quite the same. I'm going to tell him the same way I tell people.
What are you barking at?
Does that work with all dogs? I don't think so. I think it's very dog dependent. I think Zen is an exceptionally bright dog. I don't know what that means in terms of emotional maturity. So that's one thought that's kind of in my head. Another one is the resilience factor. If you do choose to use more aversive, intentional punishers in training, it really does matter the temperament of the dog, because whether you need to or not, some dogs are going to absorb it and other dogs are not. So some dogs are going to be really harmed by it. Others are going to be like, well, it may be effective, it may not, but they're probably going to move on. That night, they're not going to stay awake sweating about it. So a lot of my choices, as Amy said, we know punishers work, we know reinforcers work, we have choices. What I would say is I do look at the dog in front of me when I make choices on my line in the sand, on my side of the line. And those choices are largely determined by who I think the dog is. I could be wrong, but I think the dog is sturdy, not sturdy, a team player, not a team player, whatever. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'll apply some intentional punisher and the dog will do the thing anyway the next day or whatever. So, okay, well, that didn't work. So what I don't do then is ratchet up. If it doesn't work, I don't go, well, then I got to do more of it. I don't think that way. That's when I stop and go, okay, then now I need a better plan, because I'm not liking what's happening here. I don't like the way I'm relating. So I don't know. There was a lot more, but like I said, I shut up for the entire time. And, oh, there was one more thing about people doing the best they can. So yes, I agree with that. But sometimes I think we need to define who they're doing the best for. Is it themselves or for others or for society? So there are no shortage of people in this world who are absolutely doing the best they can. They got somebody else who's willing to cook for them, clean for them, take care of them. And so they're like, okay, this is working for me. So they're not motivated to change in a way that might actually benefit maybe their spouse, maybe their children, maybe society, because it's absolutely working for them. Is it the best they can do for others? That's a different question. So I do think everyone's doing the best they can for themselves. But if you haven't internalized the idea that part of your best is maybe some belief about how you treat other people, how you treat society, if that's not in there, I think things get weird really fast. Because they're doing, I can't count in my parents' generation how many men went to work, came home, and then watched the wife take care of everything, cook, clean, watch the kids. It wasn't a matter of whether they could do more. They simply had no motivation to do more. Why would they? They had this great setup. So I think we need to kind of differentiate. A person having an emotional meltdown is in a different space than a person who has a really comfortable situation that's abusive to others, whether they've thought about it or not. Now, a dog, I think dogs are absolutely maximizing their best interest. I don't think dogs are really wired to spend a whole lot of time worrying about my best interest. They're a dependent, and that's okay with me. I do think some dogs like Zen have one notch better, but at the end of the day, he's still working for his best interest. He's still a dog. And I don't think a dog, how are you going to internalize, hey, dog, it's my turn? Like, you can't. He's going to do his doggy things and get his doggy ways. So that's why I have to say, well, dog, I'm not actually asking for your permission, but right now I'm going to put you in a crate because I need to do my own thing. Boop. Problem solved. I feel no guilt. I feel like you get enough. You have a good life. I don't expect you to buy in on this one. And I don't need to cater my entire life to you. I just need to make sure that you get enough. Now, who defines enough? I don't know. I mean, I guess again, we all have to define, did you get enough? And I don't know the answer to that. But as we all know, I'm very into the balance of all the players. And I'll stop talking. Maybe you get another 10 minutes out of me.
Well, we've talked about a lot of really interesting stuff. I know sometimes you guys, the conversation will go over people's heads, and that's, keep listening. It's okay. Sometimes somebody will throw an analogy in there that'll connect some of the things that may seem more difficult. But the more you listen to stuff and the more you listen to things, like the more complicated concepts within dog training, you will understand. It's not, we're all just regular people that are just super nerdy in this particular topic. Can't seem to get enough of it. And so it's just kind of shows you the difference of how far you can take your education as a dog trainer. You can go really far, like Amy's gone, and be able to teach, other dog trainers some of the things that are, newly discovered or just being talked about. And then you can go all the way down to, I just started a month ago and I don't know where my left shoe is.
Well, I say this,
And I think
you know
that
what?
could be part of the process too.
Everybody has a ton to learn in the positive reinforcement sphere. Every single one of us, because it's relatively new. It's a relatively new way of looking at the world, looking at children, looking at each other, looking at dogs. So if you're really trying to push your education, I mean, I guarantee you, all of us have stuff to learn. So it's a great place to explore, way more sophisticated than when I started training. If they did something you liked, you did nothing. If they did something you didn't like, you corrected the shit out of them. And it was sort of this kind of across the board joke of just, pull the collar. It was very black and white, simplistic.
It was.
And it was easy to learn because you didn't like it, just
it's
join
yes
the
or
power.
no.
It's very easy.
Yep. And no,
And everything is
food.
reactive.
It's just, no food.
You don't have to worry about
Color
anything.
or praise. Yeah.
You like it or you didn't. It's black and white, so simple. And I know how much people love those rules, but really there's no sophistication there.
Yep.
There's a lot of harm in many, many ways to yourself too. When you behave that way towards another, there's harm done to you, to the animal. Positive reinforcement is this enormous box that we are really just starting to try to understand how best to use it. How do we go about balancing out all these interests and thoughts? And there's just a lot there. There's so much to learn, and that's why I'm grateful. Amy is absolutely paving a new direction in the reactivity world with the emphasis on play and then observing, well, what happens after dogs go through these classes and why are they changing and how can we be more sensitive? And I mean, frankly, you apply the things you learn to any sphere you want to apply it to. So it's the kind of thing that does start to change your life when you start thinking, you instead of reacting, you stop and you just think, what's their perspective?
And
I think it leads into your life.
Sorry. You're right. It brings a bit of forgiveness is too maudlin of a word, but like that, my sense of people are doing the best they can with what they have is kind of applied to when I don't like your behavior, I can take a step back and not just think about how it affects me or what it says about you and why don't you do better and all those refrains that would come to my head. But instead I can say, look, there's a lot of things that brought this person all the way here. They don't have a different skill set than they have right now. They made this really terrible choice that I don't like. But it has a context. It comes from somewhere, and I could take a step back and just try to see it a little less egocentrically, less about how it affected me, or about just that there's a lot of things going on here, and we all three of us and anyone listening would benefit from somebody extending that to us when we are not even necessarily at our worst, but just just behaving some way that's annoying
for that,
right? Or just behaving some way. We could all take a step back and say, there's a larger context here. I'm willing to see you as somebody who's allowed to have these flaws and choose my behaviors a little more compassionately towards you. It's not that we always do it. It's that I just want to. And that's what I think positive training has kind of brought to me. So yes. What were you going to say, Jerri?
Oh, I have a practical tip for that. Anytime that somebody does something that I'm like, why'd you do that? Why that was a dumb decision. In my head, I'm thinking that. I very quickly replaced that with that one time that I got sober and then I ate nothing but sheet cake for 3 months.
Why'd you do that?
Why'd you do that, Jerri?
Do that, Jerri.
No, Amy. Full
sheet cake.
Sheet cakes. And I was just carrying them out of the Kroger
there's reasons for stuff. And
why?
We're a judgy species.
It got me through.
We're a judgy species, and the more we like what we do and think what we do is better, we're extra judgy about the ways it doesn't happen that way. And how could you do that? Why can't you just? And how come you didn't get there faster? And you should have learned this in your 20s. How come you didn't? Why are you still?
And then I'm like, you used to drink Listerine. Shut up.
and so sort of seeing the bigger it's easy to say to Jerri. You've always done, people just try their hardest, even when they're doing a poor job, because whatever got them to doing that poor job is a failure on many aspects. Even that person who's entitled and lazy and doing whatever, you just think you could do so much better.
There were many single points of failure. Yeah.
Somebody, something made them, and It doesn't mean I forgive her. It doesn't mean I'm just some kind of Mother Teresa. I don't know. I'm not like, I walk around forgiving everything I see. I'm a person who needs those lessons to remind myself that people struggle. It's
Yeah.
because I want to be impatient with you. I want to be, or I am sort of at first sometimes, how could you just, why can't you? I have to remind myself. People are having a hard time not giving me one. People just have the
People
skills they
might be
have.
at home downing sheet cake and
People might
pickle
be having
juice
sheet
and
cake
doing
right now,
weird
right?
But
stuff.
They might be having
ironically,
toast for dinner. They might have toast for dinner. That might be what they're
today
doing.
is day one of not eating sugar. I have huge issues with sugar.
Really?
Today's day one. And so you're sitting here
I'm
talking
so
about
proud of
cake.
you.
Well,
I'm
no,
sorry.
day one. Day one.
Day
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
But
but
we're proud of you.
I'm proud of people that are willing to discuss the problem of sugar.
Yeah.
Period.
It's huge
Because
for me.
let me tell you what
I'm
happens
keto
when
all the
I
way, man.
when
Keto
I
all the way.
post about sugar and the dangers of sugar, you would not believe what comes out of the woodwork in the comment section at me. You would not believe
I
when I
believe
ask people to just put down a soda,
Yep.
stop drinking that. They're, oh, well, that's, and I'm like, oh, sugar is the number one drug in this country. Worse, that it causes more deaths than any other drug. It causes more problems than anything that we have. So anytime anybody is and I'm a sugar junkie. Like, I literally have a piece of Millionaire shortcake bread that Madison brought me and made me because I have to watch myself. I have to be like, okay, you have to do all of these things today, and this is the only little bit of, and you're gonna only eat 4 bites, and then you got to put it away because I'll just down the whole thing.
Oh, see,
I'll down
no,
the whole
I
thing.
eat
I
all
don't
of
have it in
it.
the house.
I don't
Yeah,
eat
see,
a cookie.
and I know people that are like you, Amy, where they're like, I can't even have it in the
I
house.
can't
And
have it.
honestly, I'm surprised I can, being the way that I am.
ADHD. I'm too impulsive. I don't have breaks on my behavior. I have ADHD. I have breaks.
No,
I have
what
breaks.
somebody
I
asked,
can't
what kind of
choices.
sugar? Added sugars. Added sugars are rotting us out from the inside. So everybody go get yours. So this is a fizzy water, and we'll end on this. We're going to teach something. So this is a fizzy water. They're actually called, what are they called? Soda waters, club sodas. I don't know. I call them fizzy waters. There's
Like
a bunch of different
seltzer.
brands. Yeah,
Carbonated
if you're trying
water.
to get off carbonated water, fizzy water. If you're trying to get off sodas, you can start trying with these, because if you go look at the back of a soda, you got your little ingredients list here. You're going to go down through fat, sodium, carbs, protein, and then there'll be a section that says added sugar. I want everyone to go and look at a soda and see how much added sugar is in there. And if you can understand how many 34 grams is, that's probably not appropriate for me to say. I was going to make an inappropriate.
I was in the same place, Jerry.
Are measured in grams, Jerry.
I know how
What other things do we measure in grams, Jerry?
What I'm saying is, you could plop this baby down and think about that mound of sugar. Yeah. And in that one can, you are drinking all of that. That's why that should taste so good. That's why you get a Sprite and it hits just right. It's because of the sugar. It's the sugar. And
if and I we can't flirt with sugar at this age.
You
now.
just can't. You can't. Yeah. 7
If I could drink one, I would drink one, but I don't drink one.
Yeah.
And that's like the cookies. I don't eat a cookie. I eat a box of cookies. Like I don't. Yes. And I can't stop even when I don't even like the cookies anymore. I'm still, because you know what? I already ate the first one. Why not finish the box? So now it's like day one.
There's no break.
Well, why this is dangerous, you guys, is because our gut is our second brain. What is it?
I have that
something like 80%.
It's so good. Brain. Yeah.
There's like 80% of our body's serotonin is like stored in our belly. It's not even up here in our noggin.
Serotonin.
So when you're taking in sugar and your body's doing all of this sugar dumping and your body's having to produce all of this insulin and you're doing it's causing epidemic of diabetes. They now believe that dementia is diabetes type 3. When I said that on social media, people lost their minds and reported my post. And I was like, I learned
like, you didn't make
from doctors. I didn't make that up. I'm learning this from people who are gut specialists. Like, because I could start to see over time how much my mental health, and I've been diagnosed with, oh my God, I mean, borderline, bipolar, generalized anxiety, cyclothymia, I mean, all of these different things. And I don't have any of those things. I had a really terrible diet. I didn't have the proper exercise and enrichment for my life, my body. And I had really poor relationship health because of the decisions that I made trying to stay alive. Feeling that way made me try to escape all the time and use drugs and alcohol. Now I'm dumping those toxins into my system. So it's like, this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is, the sugar has such a hold on us that it's like ripping our eyelids off to acknowledge that, you know, how much, just tomorrow, just write down, look at the back of everything that you eat. And when it says added sugars, like this one says included, 0 grams added sugars, just so you know that there's none in it. Write down all of the sugar that you intake in the day, add it up at the end of the day. And you're going to be like, wow, I just ate a kilo of sugar today. And if that's not a descriptive visual for you, I don't know what else is, because you get in to start doing ounces of things and you got a full-blown problem. And just because we put it in our mouths does not make it okay. I've had arguments with people, close friends, and I've learned how to talk about this a little bit better so it's not so inflammatory and offensive. But I just flat out asked, how come it's not okay for us to do like smack and blow and stuff and drink alcohol and ruin lives, but it's okay for people to eat and ruin their life? It's okay for people to eat and ruin their life and not be there for their children. And if we talk about that publicly, we're fat shaming, we're body shaming, we're this shaming. And I get a lot of pushback from that. That's not the same. How is that not the same? And nobody can ever answer me. So your need to put something in your body orally is different than my need to put it up my nose. Seems like the same kind of need to me. We're all just stuffing things in holes.
It's called self-medication for a reason.
There's
People
a bunch of holes that you
with
can
sugar.
stuff. That's right. And
we self-medicate with all kinds of things.
we try to take what's outside and put it in us. It's just, I could go on and on about that topic. See, you guys got me talking after all.
Hey, but
I know.
I'm keto. I'm keto since the 90s. I don't disagree because
keto people.
Yep.
I know a lot.
That's the only way I can survive.
Well, if we all could do one thing.
Amy's got classes coming up. She needs to tell us what she's up to.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I do. For the those of you who made it all the way to the end here of this great conversation.
Amazing.
But people know you do a great job of highlighting it. I teach play therapy for dogs. I teach people how to play therapeutically with their dogs. It is not the same as playing for reinforcement. It's not the same as rewarding your dog for what they're doing. It is entirely for stress reduction and for kind of a deepening of a relationship, getting on the same page with your dog, being able to say a thing and have it heard, and have your dog say a thing and you hear it, getting all channels of communication open. I believe a lot of behavior problems and problems in the person, owning the dog, the difficulties it is for us all to have aggression or reactivity, can be very straightforwardly directly addressed from an increased sensitivity and communication. From there, many other training choices can be made. So I start with play and social connection. And that signature class is up next. It starts December 1st, but enrollment is Friday. So whenever you're watching this, if you want to enroll,
good timing.
Right?
Yeah.
Good timing
and December,
for a plug. I like it.
Yeah, and then December is my special term where I actually teach 2 classes. I don't do it very often, but this time I do. And this time I'm also running a class called Sound Advice, and it's about sound sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And so I only teach 3 classes at FDSA, but all 3 of them are entirely different, non-overlapping classes from each other that use 3 different techniques.
Ooh.
And in the sound class, I have changed the way we use classical conditioning or counter conditioning and put it in a framework that people can absolutely get. Because too often people are like, well, I gave a cookie after the sound and it didn't really do anything. And it's like, well, there's a lot of details that are kind of left behind there. So I made sure to codify it. So it's a very recipe-based class for people who are like, I don't love the esoteric sort of play with your dog. I don't know how to, it's all too nebulous. Sound sensitivity is like, it's like you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, you do these things in a row, and then that happens. It's very like codified, and I like that. It's like recipe based. And if your dog is sensitive to things happening or sudden changes in the environment, even if it's not sound, I made this whole thing portable. So like, it doesn't have to be sound. It can be your dog gets startled by something that showed up. You can still enact the framework and get the change done. I took it kind of out of the sound realm and made it like its own little standalone piece. So you can apply it to anything. And it's just super effective. And I wish people had started earlier than December, but it's hard to motivate people to plan for New Year's Eve, booming in like August. Nobody's doing that, right? So we're doing it in December. We're going to get as far as we can before the New Year's Eve booms for your dogs. But yeah, it's one of my favorite classes to teach because it's just so straightforward, and you watch all the dogs just improving week after week after week. So that's super fun. I have usually 2 classes right now.
Somebody asked, is it manageable to do both? I would say yes, because one of these classes, the sound class, is not time consuming. Right. So it's the other one is a brain bender. Yes. The relationship class, that's a brain bender, the playway. But the sound sensitivity class is not. I would not suggest doing 2 brain bending classes in the same term, unless you're going to do it from your library or you have the time or whatever. But that's hard. Right. But those 2 would not be a problem to do together.
Should be fine. The sound class you could do and in fact, it's often not enough to do because I want you to do one really good rep, like one stellar rep, and put it away in the sound class. You could get that done in like a couple minutes of setup, 5 minutes of setup, do a really good rep, and then go out and play or do other things with your dog and come back tomorrow. So that class is, you can put it up with any other class around for sure.
Yes, this is, it's
great.
going to work out that this was a 2-part episode. We're going to you'll be episode 14 and 15, and we'll just do 2 parts.
It's always a danger with me.
Yeah, super. Okay, I like it. We put it on YouTube so that people can, listen like a more podcast style, and it's easier to listen to the whole thing, and people really like that. So
yeah, exactly. The question was, are they all online? Everything is online over at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. And if you want to find those, if you click on my name and follow me, or just click on Dog Geek where I am, there's a link tree, like a thing that shows you all the places you can go to find stuff. It's probably in Denise's as well. But if you click there, you'll see where the classes are on offer. You can just click through that way. So link in bio, as the children say.
Boom. Yeah. Link in bio.
Or just message.
Well, thank you so much.
You can message me. You can message me. We can help you get where you need to be.
Yeah, we sure can. And I'm always there. I rotate these classes all year long. You can't get it this time, you'll get it next time. I rotate them through all year long.
Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Talk to you
I've been wanting to come and chat with you.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do this. So
I'm going to post these really quick so everybody can watch them.
Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Picture.
Picture.
Go smile.
Smile. We did it. Oh, Denise reminded me. Thank you so much. All right, everybody.
All right.
See